This morning, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are in a razor-thin race. If you look at the latest ABC poll, we know both candidates and voters pay attention to these polls, but they can only tell us so much.
Yeah, Denver 7's Wanya Reese talked with state pollsters, and you were hearing from these pollsters that they're actually having a little bit of a challenging time to put some of these polls together.
You're exactly right. Morning to you, Anusha and Nicole. So the interesting thing is that they're really not having as much people participating in these polls, and those participation rates have gone down over the years. Those pollsters also sharing with me that the polls were never meant to be a crystal ball, instead just a snapshot to see how some people are currently thinking. Each morning when you turn on the local or national news.
Now, we have our new ABC Ipsos poll this morning. It shows Kamala Harris with a slight lead, 4 points nationally. That's within the margin of error. And of course, Rick, other polls showed it tied or with Trump leading slightly.
You hear poll numbers that give a snapshot of how the presidential election may play out. With the November election literally around the corner, I decided to speak with a Democrat and Republican pollster, both based in Colorado, to get a better understanding of how polling works, starting with how technology has changed the game.
So we're really using different modes in order to give people the opportunity to participate and express their opinions, whether that's text message, whether that's an email sometimes it's even a postcard.
When it comes down to the methodology, the pollsters shared they like to keep their margin of error below 5%. That is accomplished by getting a random sampling of at least 400 people from the voter file of people who typically vote.
And that may not seem like very much, but the truth is you don't need to drink an entire bowl of soup to know what it tastes like. You just need a spoonful. So sampling is actually a very, it's a scientifically proven way for us to be able to know what
win the race for president of the United States. If more people were to participate in the polling process, the pollsters say they could get a more accurate picture on a number of topics and races.
What we're trying to do is accurately represent what people actually believe, because that then helps policymakers, it helps the public, helps people in a position to affect positive change for their communities.
This election season, issues all voters can get behind is the cost of living and housing, among other things. But when you mix those issues into more partisan issues, that can really shake things up.
I think when consistently you're seeing a tight race, it's going to be a tight race down to the finish.
When everything is all said and done, it is the swing states that may decide who ends up in the White House. It's those undecided or last-minute voters that could also swing the election either way. But for example, Wisconsin voters in that swing state have become increasingly difficult to poll.
It's been one of the states where we've had the highest sort of polling misses. When you look at the combined averages of what we think is going to happen in Wisconsin and what happens on election day, there's typically a larger delta there than there is in some other states.
So keeping in mind all of that context you just gave around polling itself, what is their outlook about how these elections are going to be ultimately decided?
So we're thinking about those swing states, and you saw the numbers earlier in the show. We're talking about Georgia, North Carolina, also Pennsylvania. Think about those undecided voters. Think about those black men who are wanting to vote, those Latino voters as well. How are they going to vote? Even think about some Democrat and Republicans who may have answered the poll that they were given one way, but at the last minute they may hear something from Trump or Harris that will change their mind. So the number two thing is, next Wednesday morning, we may not know who's going to be the president-elect. It's definitely going to take some time, but it's just a very interesting perspective with the pollsters and everything that they're saying with the rates going down and also votes being very, very close. States like Georgia was never a swing state, but now it's one of those states that's a toss-up.
And it's not just the popular vote that's close. It is those swing states that are so close right now.
Exactly. And it's all about that electoral college, you know, like we saw with Hillary Clinton and former President Trump. She won the popular vote. Trump won the electoral college. So it's going to be very interesting. And of course, we will be there all throughout the night and morning to keep you posted.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yes. Good context for the next week. Thank you so much.